There's a story I think of every time I'm in the throes of a difficult project. It's from the movie Catch Me If You Can, about the infamous con artist Frank Abignale Jr. Frank's father, Frank Sr., tells him a story.
2 little mice fell in a bucket of cream. The first mouse quickly gave up and drowned. The second mouse wouldn't quit. He struggled so hard that eventually he churned that cream into butter and crawled out.
This is Love Your Work, and I'm David Cadavy. You hear the story several times throughout the movie. It's really the theme of the movie. When Frank Jr.'s parents separate, he feels like the mouse drowning in cream. He runs away and poses as an airline pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer, forging paychecks and flying all over like a little mouse, frantically and desperately moving his little legs, trying to find his place in the world. Whenever I start a creative project, I feel like a mouse in a bucket of cream. Every time I move one of my little legs to try to get traction, it just keeps floating in space. But I found if you keep moving fast enough and long enough, that cream turns into butter. I talked on episode 265 about how there are a lot of different sub-skills to the skill of shipping. One of those sub-skills is overcoming your fear of shipping. In other words, facing the void. The void is the empty space you need to fill for your project to become complete. The void is a figurative place. It mostly lives in your mind, but it has literal representations too, such as the blank page or the blank canvas. The void is present at the beginning of a project, and that prevents many creators from even getting started. But the void has other, less obvious effects. The void doesn't just prevent you from starting a project, it also prevents you from finishing projects. There are plenty of things to fear as you're about to finish a project and ship. You fear criticism of your work. You fear later seeing something you want to fix after it's too late. As I talked about in episode 267, you face the finisher's paradox. You learn throughout the project, and by the time you're done, you can already do better. But as you prepare to ship, and you see your perfectionism taking over, or you get shiny object syndrome, if you look deep within yourself, you'll probably find a fear of the void. Even though you face the void at the beginning of a project, your fear of the void can hold you back in the end of a project. The fear of the void gets in the way of shipping for 2 reasons. 1, being in the butter of a project is comfortable. When something nebulous starts to solidify, we also sometimes say it gels. In either case, where there was once empty space where you couldn't get traction, you're now enveloped in something solid. When you're in the final stages of a project that has gelled, it's like being in a warm blanket on your couch with a bowl of popcorn watching Netflix. Reason number 2, the void gets in the way of shipping. When you finish the project and start the next, you have to face the void all over again. Deep down, you know after you let go of that first project and start the second, you'll feel, once again, as if you're drowning. So what are you to do? Simply being aware of your fear of the void is a good start. When you catch yourself in the final stretch, second-guessing or catastrophizing, simply remind yourself that you're trying to avoid the void, and that will help you snap out of it. What looks like perfectionism may not be perfectionism. It may be fear of the void. Another great way to overcome your fear of the void is to make sure you never have to face it again. As I talked about in episode 261, we're taught shiny object syndrome is a bad thing. Working on a project, then quickly getting excited about and switching to another project is not how traditional work gets done, but it has value in creative work. If you get comfortable having a bunch of projects incubating on the side, and you don't beat yourself up about the fact you may finish few, if any, of them, those projects on the side serve as buffers against the void. Once you prepare your current project for takeoff, you already have another project waiting in the wings. Your excitement for your other projects can even get you more excited about finishing your current project. But every once in a while, you're still going to find yourself floating in space or drowning in cream, if you will. When that happens, do whatever you can to keep forward momentum, brainstorm and prototype, and be okay knowing most of what you come up with will suck. In other words, remember the little mouse and get those legs moving. Thank you to our newest Patreon supporters. Thank you to Pravin Shaker, Philip Putnam, and Cheko Nije. One thing I've learned in over a decade as an independent creator is to invest in ideas. They really are everything. Most of them don't work out, but the ones that do can be big. I had one idea that led to a book deal and transformed my life. I had another idea that connected me with a company that later sold to Google, which brought a surprise payday. Big ideas start small, and the place I share my ideas first is my weekly newsletter. It's called Love Mondays, and each week I share a big little idea about how to break through to become a true original and make it as a creator. I also share my favorite quotes and books and tools for thought. Think of Love Mondays as like a shot of creative fuel to start off your week. There's several thousand subscribers. We're having a good time. Join Love Mondays at kdv.co/newsletter. That's kdv.co/newsletter. You might have noticed I don't have ads on Love Your Work. I haven't had them for a long time now. In fact, a big company whose name you would definitely recognize offered me money to advertise on this show recently, and I had to turn it down. Why? Because some money feels good, some money feels not as good. When I see that somebody bought one of my books, that feels good. When a company advertises on the show, it's money, but that doesn't feel quite as good. Another kind of money that feels really good is the money I get from my Patreon supporters. It feels like an honest exchange. It's a vote of confidence that they like the show. Since I myself support a number of creators on Patreon, I know it feels good to vote with my dollars and support the kind of work I would like to see in the world. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Make the kind of podcast I want to listen to and share the ideas I want to see in the world. So if you like the show, a great way to let me know is to support the show on Patreon. Even a few bucks a month helps. It really adds up over all the dedicated listeners, and it motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing. If you'd like to support the show, visit the Patreon page at patreon.com/Cadavy. You'll see the different levels and perks available. Even if you're on the fence, check out the page. Again, it's at patreon.com/Cadavy. That's patreon.com/Cadavy. Thanks for your support. Love Your Work is brought to you exclusively by our Patreon supporters, including top supporters Jeffrey Mason, Bob Rosen, and Pravin Shaker. The theme music for Love Your Work is At Sea by Dorena from the album About Everything and More, by arrangement with Deep Elm Records at deepelm.com. Love Your Work is a production of Cadavy, Inc.